For my why, it's really important. I want to be a great father, and to be a great father to me is not about having a Lamborghini or whatnot, but it is about making sure that I don't have to work 40 hours a week, every week, the whole year, and have one day off and call it Christmas.
G'day guys, Ben here from Pumped On Property today with Simon and Jax. How you doing, bro?
Good to see you.
Crib, bro.
It's good to get in here. It's awesome little office you got going on.
I'll put shoes on for you today, bro.
Yeah, you're looking very dressed up. First time seeing the shoes on.
Jax is in here today to do a live strategy session. So, Jax, why don't you tell the guys a tiny bit about yourself? He's one of our best mates. He's an absolute legend. Jackson's huge in the Australian fitness industry and the Australian coaching industry, which we'll tag at the bottom of this. But he's also looking to set up his property business, set up a passive income stream for life, man. So why don't you give the guys the quick elevated version of like your life and how you ended up in this point, which is dominating fitness in Oz?
Awesome, cheers dude. Luckily I've practiced this a lot, doing some guest speaking and being on social media as a part of my work. Basically, guys and girls, I had a passion for fitness and I realised I could get paid to do so by helping people. So I just pushed that passion really hard from, I think it was 18 onwards. I went through 7 or 8 jobs from about 15 to 20 and I pretty much lost most of them because I really struggled to work for someone because I'd put more effort in for work and not get paid more. So with personal training, it's very commission based, so I found I could do that. And then through that, I also found that working every day per hour, you don't get a lot of value for yourself and time and freedom. So I learned how to use social media and I created a social media online coaching business and a platform where I could kind of sell my own things and be a part of collaborations, etc. And then I realized that that is very visual, and eventually like the good looks and the having like being the Instagram star is not going to probably last when I'm 60 years old. So it wasn't until I met these guys that I realized there is a vision with property investing, and I wasn't paranoid about having money coming out, having a loan basically. I was always against loan. I've paid for cars in cash. My last car was like 37 grand in cash. I've always been against loans, but these guys have taught me that about paying tax, about, it's not a bad thing to have a big loan if you're setting up the right property in the right place.
This is the thing. I don't like debt either, as everyone knows. I got myself in a massive credit card debt when I went to Europe at 19 with the boys. Didn't realise that buying 20 pairs of shoes, 15 pairs of jeans, about 100 shirts and getting drunk every night for a couple of months would end up costing me 15k in credit. Nor the fact that I was paying 20% on that debt when I got home either. But the cool thing is, man, like regardless of where we've both been, it's about where we're going. And when I fell in love and found property, it changed my life. And I'm just super excited, man, to know that this step will lead to the next one and the type of future that we're both after, which is one with choices and freedom. So let's hook in. Now, we're not going to go through all of Jackson's details because some of it's super personal, obviously. So we're not going to talk income. We're not going to talk savings, super, or shares. We just know that Jackson is earning enough money. He's got a pre-approval in place with the bank for around about 450k, which is probably more than he needs in the Brisbane market right now.
It's 475.
475, which is great. We're not taking into account Jackson's partner either, who earns good money as well. So, we'll just sort of skip what we would normally talk about there. But let's start talking about credit cards, car loans, personal loans. Like, do you have any of those on hand at the moment that are going to affect you in any way?
That made it super simple. Like after I paid like a good amount of tax and actually put all my money through the system last year, I don't have any credit cards, I don't have any car loans, any personal loans. I'm zero.
Nice, man.
Debt free.
No bad debt.
Yeah. And I think I just learned that from my mum. She was always like, the only debt you should have is for the home that you're like living in. Obviously, I'm learning new stuff with you guys about investment, but she gave me a good head start on not having a credit card. And I'm even against zip pay and afterpay. Like I have arguments with my fiance Alicia, and she's now not registered for zip pay or afterpay, and she was stacking up a bill on there. And I just said, if you can't pay for it up front, then you can't afford it.
Yeah, if you can't afford to buy it right now, you shouldn't have it at all. And then that delayed gratification is something that'll probably come up a lot through today's strategy session and also in the future as well. Like something that we've been really blessed to have is being able to delay that gratification, and then it makes it so much better once you get it. once you do delay that gratification too.
Can I ask you, man, like when you were a kid and there was like the nice thing on the plate or the veggies on the plate, like which order did you personally eat it in?
Always me first, man.
Always me first.
Yeah, but it's funny. Actually, no. Actually, now that you say that, it was like if I knew I was going to actually eat what was on the plate, like if I had to eat the whole plate, I would always eat the stuff that I didn't like first.
Yeah.
Because I want to finish on a win, so to speak.
Yeah.
And even as a kid, it was just I just knew that if you fill yourself with the nice stuff, you're going to end up sitting there and mum's like, you're going to sit at the table, otherwise you're not leaving. Like it was a pretty tough.
I remember sitting on the kitchen table sometimes for like 2 hours while mum's like, you're not leaving, and I'm like, I'm not eating it.
I remember like
I'd always like eat my veggies first, and that's an incredible habit of successful people because delaying gratification, as Simon said, is painful, but super important in the first 10 years of everyone's journey.
I think I cried over Brussels sprouts when I was like 6 or something. Still scars me to this day. I can't do boiled Brussels sprouts. I'll do anything else.
Mum's favourite, man, when like times were tough was Spam, and then to dress it up, she'd put a little bit of pineapple on top of it.
Oh.
And I'm like, Mum, no matter how much pineapple you put on that Spam, it's still Spam. It's still fun Spam. So where do you want to be 12 months from today, bro? Like, where's your vision for your life? And that can be property-wise, and it can be personally as well.
So I won't go into detail about like the online coaching side of things too much, but I want to have that set up basically passively to be paying what I am now with my personal training. Mm-hmm. So I want that to be over $1,000 a week, like $1,000 a week, passively coming through the app in 12 months. I just had this meeting early with my team as well. But then I also want to either be in the property that I want to live in, but also building a value with either the land or the house. Like basically, I want to find a place that is going to increase in value while I'm living it, or in the investment property strategy. And just in 12 months, I just want to be working a little bit less, but still be making the same or more amount of money.
Awesome, bro. And what about longer term? Like, where do you see yourself in 10, 15 years' time? Obviously, there's things outside of our life that aren't in our control, but a lot of getting to a destination is as well. Like, where do you want to be financially and personally at that time?
So that's something that I've always had to fight my internal, like, what's the word for it? Like, my clients do it as well. It's where you sabotage your success because you don't feel the value for it. So growing up quite poor with a single mum, every time I'm about to have this mad successful increase in my life, I will self-sabotage by going out and drinking, or just doing, not getting the work done that I need to. So the last 2 years have been a really good kind of working on myself, telling myself I'm enabling myself to be successful, and the word rich used to come weird out of my mouth, like it used to taste weird saying it. But now it's not, I don't want to be
witch.
Yeah, I don't want to have that. I actually don't want, like when I was younger, it was about having these items. Now it's good. It doesn't taste bad to say like wealthy or freedom, because I don't want to be rich. Obviously, that's going to be the outcome if I work hard. But I don't want the Ferrari and stuff that I wanted when I was younger. I just want less like overheads and money coming in, more choices and freedom. So I want to be able to go surfing when we go surfing without stressing. I've got to beat my client in half an hour. I want to work 2 days a week with high-end clients and change people's lives. But I also want, I want a kid in like 2 years, 1 to 2 years. I want a home that I can say is mine and that I'm chunking into a lot quicker than my neighbour who's struggling and stressing and complaining all the time about how he's like, oh, massive debt, we shouldn't have moved here, prices of the fuel's up, everyone's negative around you. My partner's parents were like this when I was spending time with them, and I was like, I can't be around this, I want the positive mindset. So long term is financial freedom.
What does that mean specifically? Like for me, there's the business, there's going to be some super or something maybe down the line, and there'll be my property portfolio as well. And so for me, I know that I want 6 figures within 15 years. And again, like there's a whole series of steps to get there. What's your line in the sand point that you're going for? And you can pull that number out of the air. But I think that's important because people don't put that number out there soon enough. And for most people watching this, it should just be whatever your current annual salary is, unless you're making 500 grand a year, and then that's probably going to take more than 15 years to do.
Yeah. So I think if I put it in a weekly thing, I'm not so good looking at like a large yearly thing, but I've always wanted to work around the 5,000 a week actual profits at the end of all the costs.
Sure.
That's going to allow me to save for my next properties.
Yeah.
That's going to allow me to also have holidays whenever I want.
Yeah.
And that's also going to allow me to hang out with my friends and buy a new surfboard or buy, this. I'm into gadgets and cool stuff. So
take Alicia and the kids over to Europe and America and live that lavish lifestyle. That 200k per year is going to give you ultimate freedom and choice, which is amazing. And having that clear line in the sand that, okay, 200,000 is what we're working towards. This is what's going to enable me to have the life that I want to have. It makes it a lot easier for us to reverse engineer that back to what needs to happen next to get a little bit closer.
Completely, bro. Cool. So that's the number we work towards. Like four grand a week would be 200, 5 grand a week, 250. Same diff. Like what I've realised, if you can learn to replace 50 grand a year, you can learn to replace $1 million. It's the same thing scaled. It's the same in fitness. You find the little hacks in it and then do the same thing repetitively. What would financial freedom mean for you in terms of like changing your stars and your future based on where you came from?
I think the reason that we ask this question is to help figure out your why and help understand so that during the tough times throughout this journey, if you've got that really strong why, it really helps you pull through those tough times, through those sacrifices. So I think it's a really important one, like just as important as understanding where it is that you want to be, but why you want to be there.
I love these questions because this is a very similar setup as my clients in the gym. It's just obviously a micro kind of cycle instead of a macro one. So
you've asked me the same question a heap and I can never answer it with fitness because I don't have a why. It's like I just want to live to 100. Well,
that's a why. That's a why. So my why would be, I always think back to my father not being there when I was younger, and instead of blaming him, thinking that maybe he had a lot of stress. Maybe he just didn't have financial freedom to be able to spend the time there. And I'm sure in most cases, if he did have the right setup and was actually set up with properties and stuff, he probably would want to spend more time with his kids. So for my why, it's really important. I want to be a great father. And to be a great father, to me, is not about having a Lamborghini or whatnot, but it is about making sure that I don't have to work 40 hours a week, every week, the whole year, and have one day off and call it Christmas. You know what I mean? My why is about being there, not just for kids. Like, I don't have any kids yet. For my partner, for my fiance, my future wife, like she's stressed. My goal is to help retire my mum and help look after Alicia, but still not take her passion away from her. Still enable her to have her independency, but to just be able to say, hey, we're going to go away for a month, or hey, we can upgrade your car or whatnot, and be able to do that. I think that's amazing, and to spend more time at the beach, spend more time doing what I want to do, and look after my body because I want to live like a long time and be fit and healthy, and that's kind of like what I keep preaching online. But I'll preach to everyone not to stress and to sleep more, and then I'll stress and sleep less because I'm getting up early for clients, and I'm getting back like last night 7:30 at night from a client. So it's like I need to walk the walk if I'm just going to be selling this life.
I feel that, man. Like when I first started the business, I was talking about financial freedom, which I was working towards, and I was talking about this lifestyle balance when I was working 100 hours a week. I was working like 7 till 11 some nights, like, and I was happy to do it at that time, but now I'm like, it gave me massive anxiety. It really like sort of changed the course of my life. Sometimes you have to go through that stuff. Sometimes you have to like not sleep, but you don't want to be doing that forever, and in the future you want those choices.
I think everyone needs to spend like a month or 2 months at like rock bottom, working massive hours and doing way more than they want to kick them up the butt a bit.
And I feel like I did it for like 5 years.
Yeah, and most time will take longer, but you might just have bigger dreams. Some people might just want 2 properties and be paying off the one and the other one just in a positively good situation. So, but yours is a bit bigger picture. Yours is a bigger place to be. But yeah,
I think that balance is so important for everybody. Finding that happiness so that you can maintain in flow, so that you can be there for the people that really matter. Like your kids when they come along, your fiance, friends, whoever it may be, clients, whatever.
Completely. Now, a question that we always ask in our strategy sessions, and Jackson's already sort of highlighted a few of them, is what's been holding you back from achieving your property investment goals until now? Now, here's a good starting point, which I think is probably worth going down the list on, and just pointing out the ones that are important to you, and then adding whatever else you wanted as well, whether that's background stuff, growing up stuff, future stuff, whatever that looks like?
This one screams out straight away. Like, my partner isn't ready, isn't interested in property, or I just read it wrong when I first seen it, but isn't kind of ready for it. So when I've been talking about property to her, because she's not at that financial situation, she feels like she's not a part of the conversation. And, you know, I'm trying to put my name on this first property because we're getting more buying power, but it doesn't mean there's not equally her property as well. So I think it's about like trying to, for this bit here, this was a struggle for me. Like, it wasn't something that she was pushing me towards because she didn't want to put pressure on me. But then when I became interested, when I met you guys, it took me like over a year to really be like, okay, this is not just a fun, cool thing to talk about. Like, people will talk about it a lot, like, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to invest this. But I'm like, okay, this is something realistic. And it took me a year to get out, sort my taxes out, make sure I'm putting the money from my personal training business into the actual account and not doing cashes, etc. But that's probably one that's really started out. Like, even when I'm talking about blocks that I've been looking at the moment in houses, Alicia just hasn't really known what to say. She was like, oh, it's not my deposit, it's not kind of, you know, she's detached from it. And I think it's because she's not putting money towards it, but she's just not at the situation. But as a future husband, or like, I like to be the man of the relationship, so to speak, I want to be the first one to do this. I would feel strange if she was at that stage before me. I think it's different for everyone, but that's what works for me. So that really stands out to me. Definitely, like, for me, is I didn't have a mentor or a coach like you guys. Like, before I met you guys, I was all about just like, I was trying to get into, I was buying Bitcoin, I was throwing my money into all this weird stuff because I have an entrepreneur mindset, and I love, like, you know, not just spending money on crap, but actually putting money into things that I feel will make money. But a lot of it was hype, and just like the Bitcoin market, just like everything, as you said to me at the time, it might be, you might have someone who makes a lot, but overall, it's a very cautious kind of place to put your money in. And we know with property, like, if you make the right decisions, it's pretty much guaranteed. It's just a longer kind of journey. So that was a big thing for me. So that not having a mentor and a coach, that was big. I didn't have the education around it. Like, without the education around it, it's like fitness. Like, every single time I have a client that sits down with me, they say to me, I've always wanted to do this, and I've been coming to the gym, but I always end up stopping. I'm not getting results. So I want to find out more about how to actually get results, more about the food or the details. And without them going on every website on the planet and just getting overloaded with information, like what people do in the property, you know, everyone's a property like investor masterclass online now, Instagram selling all these things. Instead, it's good to have people like yourselves that have like walked the walk, have the team, and actually shown like actual testimonials and stuff, like real stuff, not just like saying next to a Lamborghini, saying like I'm rich and stuff. Like, I've got a friend in Vegas that owns a Lamborghini, but doesn't mean he has any idea about property at all. So that was a big thing for me.
What do you got against my beat-up Jetta?
When it's running.
when it's running.
Yeah. And obviously, like, not sure if property investing is right for me. I've always been scared of debt, so that was like a big thing for me as well.
Because we both grew up in houses where debt was bad, right? Like, our parents still have not invested in property, although they've done really well from buying and selling their own homes. But debt is like a really uncomfortable thing for a lot of people that don't grow up upper middle class to, like, you know, obviously people that are wealthy have no problem with debt because they understand the leverage of it. But it took me years to get over that. In fact, I still don't like looking at the debt in my bank accounts. Like, I actually hid them for the first 8 years as an investor because it made me feel sick.
A lot of pressure.
I was just a couple of days ago talking to a friend, and he was saying, you know, if your plan is this, then why don't you just keep buying properties, and then the passive income will get you to your passive income goal? And I just sat there and I'm like, the debt would make me feel sick. Like, I just can't stomach the debt. Like, both of us are working towards basically having zero debt as soon as possible.
Yeah. There's different ways to do this, and the old way was, you know, 0 to 10 properties in 10 days. And now it's more like, I'd rather own 2 outright giving me $2,000 a week, or 3 giving me $3,000 a week, than I would like to be in millions of dollars of debt and the whole house of cards come crashing down, like unfortunately it has for some people.
In some ways, more properties, more risk.
Yeah.
Because it's like more things to think about. Also, that I follow this awesome guy on YouTube who basically wears the same charcoal grey shirt every day for the last 3 years. He obviously has different pairs of them. But he said no one ever noticed. No one ever commented saying, oh my God, you're wearing the same shirt. And he goes, that first decision in the morning just became easier. And then he started making sure he only had 2 different pairs of pants that he wore, and everything was like strategic like that. Like how many choices do I need to make? And I think that's the same with like
Did
the
he talk
property
about
thing.
how many pairs of undies he's got? Or?
Just one inside out every second
2 days
day.
on, 2 days off.
Look, he's killing it. He's all right.
That's sick.
So that's what I also have thought about as well. You know, you can't just be Robert Kiyosaki and just do the 100 properties and all this stuff, because you got to. If you're already rich, it's easy to make money.
That's cool as well. You know, if that's what you want to go for, then that's what you want to go for. But it's not the only way. There's so many other ways. You really got to figure out where your values are aligned and what's going to make this journey easier and more achievable for you.
Now, the fourth question that I wanted to ask before we talk about your plan, and your plan's going to be split into 2 sections because we really have to get to the bottom of this. Are we doing your own home? Are we investing first? And your own home is going to be an investment because it's not your forever home.
Yeah.
But, you know, regardless of where we buy or what we buy, if maybe Simon just asks you some questions and I can jot them down, you know, this is just a way to get to the bottom of a strategy, because right now, when you can buy anything, that makes it really difficult. It's also like when you train, if you're trying to do a little bit of everything, you're not getting a result in anything.
Yeah, this is what I say to people, like quality over quantity.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone sells programs that are like 12 exercises for your chest, but realistically, if you want a good chest, you just pick one and get really good at it. So I think it's a similar thing to this.
Exactly, man. So are you thinking for this next purchase is what we're specifically talking about, you want to hold it short term or long term?
I think it's definitely going to be short term, especially if, when I say hold, I mean live in it. If it is the first place that I live in, my strategy would probably be to hold it and try to get the value up to the equity, if that makes sense. I don't know all the right words that you guys know, but my strategy is what I try to tell my mum and a lot of people as well, is like, don't really sell unless you have to. Try to hold the properties as long as you can, because that rental return will probably, especially on the Sunshine Coast, especially where we are, it seems to be, it's really hard to find a rental at the moment. I've got friends that are struggling. So
to just confirm that, you might only live in it short term, and then would you sell it and upgrade the home, or would you live in it short term but then keep it forever?
I would be hoping to keep it for as long as I want to keep it for a long type of thing, to get as much money out of it. But if it's a good time to sell and that opportunity comes up, and the advice from you guys and people around me and what I know about the market, like if there's I don't know how the language is, but if there's a boom that happens, and I'm looking at like, okay, I'm going to get a really good price for this, and I have to sell to be able to get this next big thing, I'd only really sell unless if I'd have to, we could get like the dream home.
Sure.
So I think for me, it's about doing the first property, either living in it or investment, and holding it for a bit. And then obviously if it's an investment, just keep renting it out as long as the rental return's working and the house is still held together and whatnot. And only selling it if I have to sell it. Otherwise, I'd love to have like 3 or 4 properties that have got rental people in them that's going to be positively geared, and I'm just building value on the land in that area.
Awesome.
And then make a decision later instead of rushing into selling.
Cool, man.
Cool. So here we've got capital growth by itself, because capital growth is what everybody should be targeting, and I think that you would agree.
Yeah.
Cool, man. What about negatively geared or cash flow positive?
And that basically means?
The property costs you money to hold, or the property pays for itself?
I definitely would want to be minimum neutral.
Yep.
And then pushing towards positively. And I think if you can purchase smart, like what you guys do, I think you can be pretty much neutral instantly, and then within a few months be positive as the value of the land and the house increases, and as people want to move to the Brisbane or the Sunshine Coast as well.
Yeah, perfect, man. Now, what about regional versus metro? So I'm talking about the market that you want to be investing in.
Metro being Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. Regional being Sunny Coast, Goldie.
Regional for me. Obviously, I'm not educated on this. This is just me speaking out loud. But I like to buy places that I would like to live, and I feel like they've got a lot of potential to grow. Of course, North Brisbane is kind of in between, so it's like not really a grey area, but I don't really know exactly where that falls. But I want an area that isn't fully established, that isn't really expensive to get on board, and then in 10 years, that's like the next key area.
Awesome.
While we're there, I might just kind of break down some interesting information that we have, which was an article drawn up by CoreLogic. And what they did here, Jax, was they looked at the performance of the 7 capital cities in Australia and they compared them to the performance of the 7 largest regional markets throughout Australia over a 20-year period. So what we're talking about here is a long-term hold. So 20 years being a long time. When you compare the metro markets versus the metro markets have outperformed the regional markets by over 85%.
Oh, wow.
But then what you're coming back towards is living in your own home, and you clearly live on the Sunshine Coast, so you're being drawn toward the regional market. So when we're investing, we love those major metro markets. When you're buying your own home, there's a lot more emotion that comes into it. So it kind of disregards a little bit of this, but it's good to understand that so that you can be focusing on the right markets at the right time. And most parts of Brisbane are actually more affordable than the Sunshine Coast right now, believe it or not, which is crazy.
What I like about that is that if we have someone like myself that is emotionally purchasing, trying to be in my own home straight away because of the push of my fiance, just because it makes more sense to her. Like, a lot of partners feel like, they don't understand the investment thing. And also, I've had some rentals where I've run into some bad situations with neighbours and stuff, so it's emotionally pushing me towards living in my own home. I want to build a little gym for my clients and stuff there. But what I would do is, if we are going to go towards that, then I would know for sure that the second or the third definitely needs to be in those key areas. So, like, once I am living in the place that I want to live in, and hopefully it is costing me less as a mortgage than it would be to rent in the same place next door if I was to rent, then the second and third would be, okay, let's do completely non-emotional, it's like fully investment driven, and I think that could be a way to do it as well.
Yeah, definitely, man. I love that you've sort of broken that down, and that's the exact same way that we think. And funny thing is, Sunny Coast is in an amazing stage of the property cycle right now as well, so you'll be making some
I'm watching
money
prices go up on the daily.
Yeah. Cool. So what about unit or a house?
Just because of you guys, like, I'm easily answering these because I'm best friends with these two guys, and we've had chats, exercising, training, surfing, in the spa. Like, just these guys have given me the key things, and you just never buy a unit unless it's like $100,000 under normal value. But even then, you're not purchasing land, so the land is the key. And I've grown up on farms and stuff, so I love land, I love space, and it's cool to have a holiday place to go to a resort or whatever, but when you've got kids, future kids or whatnot, then you've got to look at like space. And then also, just even if you didn't think about it at all for yourself, let's just say we're completely detached it makes sense. Like, you've got, when the elevator breaks, you're paying for it, and you're like, I take the stairs, fucking, why am I paying the elevator, you know what I mean? So you've got this extra stuff thrown in there. And just from what you guys have told me, like, always buy house and land, because you're actually buying something that you can grab and you can change yourself. With an apartment, you can put some paintings up on the walls and put some posters up, but you can't really do anything. You can't move the walls around. It's a part of like kind of you'd have to go through an agreement or whatnot.
That's right, man, for sure. The power's definitely in the land, and houses all the way.
Yeah, because units only getting older.
Yeah. Cool. And what about a single? So what I'm talking about here is the income that the asset produces you. So are you thinking single income or dual or multiple income potential?
I've always loved the idea of the dual income, only because I lived in a granny flat a few years ago, and I loved it, and I was paying nearly what I would pay for like a small house. But I just loved it because I didn't want to live with anyone. I got to that stage in my life where I'm like, I don't want to live with anyone, but I also want my own place, but I don't want to be paying for a whole place and having to do stuff. So for someone who's actually experienced it myself, and I enjoyed it, I think that it's the future. And people these days would rather live in a cheaper place and go to Bali twice a year than live in a nicer place. And that's kind of like how I was for a few years, until I come to more of a serious situation with my partner and whatnot. So definitely would love to do dual income, but obviously it's all about like where that's going to be approved and the conversations we have had. But if it's open, always push towards that, because why not? Like, again, you're getting the land, so you're getting all the land, and then you are having potential for people. Most people are actually making less than the average these days. We've got a lot of people that are just under average, and then a few people that are making a lot of money. So we want to get that pool of people and put them in properties. So that's kind of the future.
100%, man.
I'm such a big fan of dual income. As you said, like it's council by council dependent, but if you can make it work, it's cool.
Oh yeah. So when it comes to the property itself, are you thinking something that's unrenovated and needs a little bit of work, or something that's tenant ready or a brand new property?
I've been thinking about this week. I've been challenged and I've had conversations with Simo. I haven't had time to sit down with Ben, but I've been looking at these crazy cool new real estate display homes, and I've been getting excited, and I'm talking about blocks, and the first thing you realise is there's no leeway on prices. You can't negotiate. It's just these big companies that own these little blocks. And what's cool is I don't know if this is correct, but it feels like it's cheaper to build the dream home these days than it was a while ago. It's like the parts they're learning how to build homes faster and more affordable. Mm-hmm. So that's like a house that's maybe 10 years old. The people that are selling it are like, oh, it cost me this much, I want this much for it. So I am like excited, and my partner Alicia's like, she works from home with the Lash and Brow company, and she wants to be able to design a home that has what we have now, that rental, with a room close to the front for her clients, like a full salon setup, and to have everyone wants new. Everyone wants new.
It's bloody nice.
But I'm not going to rush into anything, and I'm not emotional about it. And if we can find a property that needs a reno, I don't mind getting my hands dirty, and I don't mind living in a place that doesn't look cool, doesn't have a cool front, or it might have like some rats and shit. I don't mind that. Like if it means that I'm going to because it's not about being like really happy right now.
The Sunny Coast is filled with rats, guys.
What I mean is like, that was a figure of speech. Hopefully you don't have rats. But what I mean is like a little bit, like we talk about with the vegetables thing, the dinner plate thing, a little bit of pain now, which is not even pain, it's just, not luxury. But that's going to be 2 years closer to being financially free. That's a whole 2 years of being financially free, surfing every day, chilling, doing whatever I want, spending time with my 2 or 3 year old kid or 5-year-old kid or whatever. That's definitely the one I want to go towards.
Oh yeah.
It's all about supply and demand though, and if I can get those places. So like I definitely am. Like for everyone's listening, it's like you always want to go the house that's like that you can negotiate on, the land and house that's closer to the ocean or closer to the right area, that has a house on it that people don't really want to look at. And most people are going to look at it and go, "Oh, that's ugly. We won't buy that." Like families, they're going to buy emotionally. So it's time. That's time for us as purchasers to buy, in a better mindset. Buy what people don't want to buy because we know it's going to add more value. So definitely, I prefer that. But I am also the person that's like, if I can't find that, it's like a ticking time. I want to get onto something in the next 3 to 4 months, just because of some rebates and building things that they're throwing out at the moment to kind of like entice you into building new.
Yeah.
But I'm not obsessed, and I'm not going to just sign a document tomorrow. I'm going to really be patient with it.
You signed it before you came in here, didn't you?
Yeah. It's like, actually, everybody pushed something.
Jackson's been like, man, I need this session 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, sorry. But no, we're going to definitely talk about the pros and cons of the brand new versus existing option on the Sunny Coast for you, because I think you're right. Like never before have we had a 25 grand government boost until the end of 2020,
along with lower
15 grand Queensland government boost until the end of the year. Free stamp duty, it's like 55 grand worth of savings. Yeah. That's a full deposit basically on a home. You know what I mean? So I get that, and I got sucked in 2011 on the first home buyers grant, which at the time was free stamp duty, lender's mortgage insurance plus 10k, and it was the exact same market coming out of a recession. Try and suck everyone back in. They know that if people buy the bottom stuff, then the people that own the bottom stuff will make a bit, move into the middle, move into the top, and the cycle continues. So it's smart what the government's doing. It's definitely attractive, and I don't know where I'd sit if I was buying first time right now. Like I might build because the grants are just so epic. You know what I mean? It's just figuring out what you want and knowing the goals we have are capital growth, you to be super comfortable, and you to make money over the medium term. How we do that could be one of 3 different ways, you know what I mean? So let's move from that and let's talk about this. Now we're not going to do a full where does Jackson want to be in 15 years and map out the property related activity he has to do. What we're going to do today is give Jackson 100% clarity so that he can walk out of here knowing exactly what he wants to do from picking one of these 3 options. Now, your first option is what I call beachside Sunshine Coast.
Lucky you can't
Yeah.
see. Lucky you can't see this.
Yeah, yeah.
Say the writing that I've just wrote sun.
Gary V.
And by beachside, I mean I'm just off the beach side, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
non-beach side of that main road we're always
Basically,
referring to.
Yeah, sort of somewhere similar to Ben and myself.
Basically, you could walk to the beach.
In an ideal world,
easily.
or buy a little $1,000 moped and ride down.
It's just done. So I don't know if 475k is achievable because I haven't looked at the sales history. You guys have.
I have, and I would be putting it for what Jackson wants, about a 550 budget on that. So
On non-beach side now.
Yeah.
So
the prices have really spiked, and it's a real seller's market.
Is that 475? You know, you put your deposit and that's included in the 475.
Great question. I was on the phone with my broker, and I'm trying to hustle because
Yeah.
I've got a bit of money, and I'm also ready to sell my car and buy a cheap car just to get me over the line if it gets me to a beach side. Because I know that's going to give me the financial freedom faster.
So you might actually be able to access 500k if you did that.
Yeah, maybe 520 or 530. But this is the thing. That means that I won't be able to get the LMI rebate. So at the moment, I'm in a waiting list, and my broker is basically saying she's less sure now. She was pretty sure I was going to get it, and now it's running out of time. So she said that if you don't get the LMI, it just means I need to put in, I'm obviously going to have the LMI added to my loan. So on 475, it's about 12 to 15 grand or something. So if that happens and I don't get the LMI, that allows me to increase this 475 to, because it's actually the purchase price. So it's not just a loan, like it's under that kind of grant thing. They don't want people buying that really nice, you know, they want people buying that lower end stuff to keep the Australian economy moving. So if I don't get the LMI rebate, then
I'm not interested in you getting the rebate personally because I'd prefer you to make an extra 200k buying the right asset in the next 10 years than trying to save 12 now.
Exactly.
So let's just theoretically say we're not
LMI.
rebate shopping here, we're value shopping for property.
So if I'm approved for 475 plus I put a small deposit in, add the LMI onto that, and then I can do about 60k of my own cash on top.
So let's just say first option, like let's run through these scenarios. We've got beachside, sunny coast, say 520k is our max.
Yeah, definitely.
We know the suburbs, unfortunately we're not going to share those today, but effectively they're the ones between where we train and where we train. You know, so what the minimum option looks like there is 500 metres squared of land. I would like to see it at 600 minimum, but I don't again know if that's possible. There's a lot of 550 blocks around there. I would like to see it as a minimum 3-bed house in terms of the criteria to really nut it down, and then we'll compare them versus each other. I would like to see it with a large backyard. Now, currently on the sunny coast, you can't legally build and rent a granny flat out as well as rent the front home out, but I think you can buy a home up here and rent the granny flat out at the moment. And I've heard whispers that they're going to change something in the next few years, but who knows? So we want a large backyard in case you decide to build that granny flat.
And also just because it's really great for resale value as well.
Yeah, families want yards, man.
Yeah, it gives you options to put stuff in if you decide to stay there longer term, maybe a pool, entertaining area.
We want it to be absolutely as close to the beach as possible, but we want it to be in a quiet street. And we want it to be in the highest quality suburb that you can afford.
So those fundamentals that Ben just mentioned, 500 to 600, minimum 3-bedroom, large backyard, close to the beach or city, quiet street and quality, they are transferable through all three of these options. Except probably the new build.
And I want it to be unrenovated. The reason being, I've renovated so many houses, including some on this non-beach side, and the value uplift is massive. Like, as you said, it's such an emotional market that they'll pay in the future more than it's worth for that. Secondly, you can save yourself a fortune.
Thirdly, you've got a best mate who runs a construction company.
I've thought about that. I'd rather get a place that's unrenovated because obviously I can get a better quality land because it means that the house itself is worth a little bit less because it needs work. And we're surrounded by friends and family that are all in the, you know, I've got electricians, plumbers, builders, you know, you guys have got a whole team of people that you know. Like, I'm in a space where we're going to save money more than the average family anyway.
That's right. So that's your first option. You know, that's a really, really good option for capital growth and maybe cash flow if the council changes its position. The second option is Sunshine Coast land. Now, that could look like South Caloundra South, or whatever they call it. It could look like somewhere else, but as you've seen, man, like land prices are going up, and most of these places have pretty small land sizes. Like, what would the land size be there?
So I just priced a block that just fell through. Someone just fell through the...
Convenient timing.
Yeah, someone just fell through.
Someone just falling through on the last block that's available, even though they've got 20,000 blocks.
Yeah. But it's like 280k just for the land, and it's only 350 square meters.
350, so there you go.
So it says 350 metres squared. Again, like, I've built 3 houses on 350 square metre or smaller blocks personally. I made money on every single one of them as well. I don't have, for a client, 100% I've got a really clear vision, but there's just so many different things when you're talking about living in it. So I suppose from your bigger picture goals, it's not going to have the backyard, it's not going to have a minimum land size.
Even the bigger land doesn't actually mean more backyard, just means slightly wider.
Yeah.
So you're not actually getting more depth in the back of the yard. So
let's just theoretically play with this. Like, let's pretend that it was something that you're interested in. And the only reason we're talking about this today is because the 55 grand grant's up for grabs. Like, if that wasn't on the table, it doesn't tick my box of land size, it doesn't tick my box of location. But one of the boys in the office did exactly the same thing 2 years ago, bought there, built, flipped it, made 100 grand profit in a year, and now he's used that to buy where he wanted to be. And so there's stepping stones. Like, I've used these properties 4 or 5 times to step onto the next one.
Yeah.
And it can be very valuable. It's also nice to have a brand new place.
It also fits into my loan budget without having to use a lot of my own cash. So my idea, I'm not sure if it's as smart, it's a good question to ask now, is to actually only use the minimum to build this one on this, might even be a 330 block or whatever, but either way it fits in the double garage, the minimum that I want, the 4-bedroom, media room. I've got like the builders planning and giving me guidance on that. The 2 bathrooms and the room that's close to the front door for Alicia's business. So that's more of an emotional thing for her and I. And it's gonna keep under that 475 or 480, and I can actually give the builder like extra cash on top to do extra things like the facade and everything. I've already spoken to them about that. And then to keep 50 grand or 60 grand myself and use that in like 2 years to put towards the next one and do the investment property in North Brisbane or wherever else.
This is the thing about buying your own home first. What we're trying to do is create the lifestyle that you want, that you're going to be happy with, that's still going to have an acceptable outcome and get you forward, that's going to keep your cost base down so you can keep investing.
And it's still going to be less money than I'm paying rent right now.
Like, significantly less.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if it's $400 a week for you to live in this place. Based on interest only, loan for owner occupier right now. I've seen rates at 2.3%. So let's say we went that option. Got $280,000 for the land, theoretically. These builders will chuck in a $10,000 landscaping allowance, you know what I mean, which is just cash back at the end of the job. Rather than discounting the land, they'll do that. So it's all about how you ask these guys for a discount, because they can't give you a discount on land if they've sold it to everyone else, because it will stuff everyone else's valuation. But they can, especially if we introduce you to the people that we know, like Ken down there, can get you a backhand discount, which is a cash back at the end of it all. And then it'd have to be on that size block, a double-story home. Is that what you're thinking?
No.
Single story?
It's single story. We definitely don't want double story.
Single story is going to keep your cost base down. Let's just say we want to keep that at what?
280, 300?
No way. For single story.
It's like 200 or something. I think it's...
if we could keep that at 210, which I know we can, you're not going to get a 4-bedroom home plus a media room plus a working office for 210. Like, the builder will be selling you that you will, but you won't.
It's going to be extra. It's going to end up costing more.
Your cost per metre squared might be $2,000. So if you do 200 square metres at $2 grand, you know what I mean? Like, that's where we get the numbers from on these sorts of things. There's a lot of cowboys in building, man, that will be like promising you the world and the price they give, and then as soon as you sign, the contract will increase by 30 to 50k. So just everyone be aware of that.
I've had too many conversations where that's happened, and it's been sign them up plus, and yeah, it can be difficult.
Let's say you get in there for $490K and you have a beautiful home, like that would be sick. Flattered, Queenslander style, big bedrooms, big living. Like I've already got the perfect design for that based on something that I built on the exact same land size. You know, and then you take off the top of that $40,000 or $35,000 in grants. You know, realistically, you're only in it for just over $450K. You've got a beautiful brand new place. Then you put in your own cash as well. Like you almost have less than $400K debt. That is still a really acceptable option for me if you're looking to like only hold that for a few years and make some coin
that's
out of it.
definitely similar to you know, Adzi, who works with you guys, like seeing that, you know, obviously it's not going to be guaranteed. We don't know, like, you know, I'm looking at these estates and they're promising these amazing schools and all these recreational parks.
They are all coming.
But, you know, it doesn't always convert so well. Just because someone made $100,000 doesn't mean I will. So I'm more looking at it realistically as like maybe 25 to 30,000 a year if there's no beautiful massive increase, but still like have it for 3 years and then put a rental in it and use the equity and a heap of, I want to try and save like $100K myself pretty easily. And
I know with you and Elise you can do that in the next 3 years.
Yeah. Well, I think I can. You know, without traveling to 20 countries, I've already put $50,000 away in 6 months. So like, it helps when there's a COVID going on.
Pandemic savings.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, you know, at every stage of a journey, there's a different outcome. And this, you know, for some people, myself included, when I was getting started, like absolutely a great stepping stone, keep the costs low, have a beautiful place to live in that you're stoked with, live in a good area and hopefully make a little bit of gains on the way out, get your deposit back plus maybe $80,000 or something like that would be a really good outcome to recycle the money. You know, as a business, there's just a lot of things that I don't like about that. Like it's too far from the beach, there's too much land coming on, the prices are artificially inflated by the developer on the land side of things, but we can get you $40,000 discount on the build through our network, like for family. We can, you know, the land size is a little bit small, the streets aren't exactly set up for like long-term owner-occupier appeal, but that is a very, 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 very good price point to get into the market brand new just down the road from the beach and guaranteed someone in Sydney or Melbourne 3 years down the track
will want to jump on that.
Like that quick, like, you know what I mean? Under 600K for them as a starting point, it's established, it's ready to go. Super easy to move, and it's at a price point where a lot of people can afford it. It's not going to stress you out. In fact, it's going to save you about $150 a week on your current rent.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's
again,
what I kind of looked at.
You know, I just want to be clear that, like, you know, because Jackson's not a paying client, I would never help you buy that. But as
it's also not a
client,
long-term investment. It's a short-term investment. It's an owner-occupied home, so there is so many things that we value from a long-term investor's perspective that aren't being taken into consideration for this particular example.
But I've made $100,000 every time I did this personally, and I love the strategy.
But that's you doing it though. If some random did it, made a lot of mistakes, the Cowboys in building, paying inflation.
Oh man, like there's no chance without me hammering the builder and developers down on price that I could have done that. And it also had a lot to do with lucky market timing. You know, pricing of land has definitely gone up since I was able to do that. So it's an option for sure. The third option is to just go, hey, I'm just going to rent the lifestyle I want. Let's get the beautiful like home that you're currently in, or let's like, hey, I want to live like on the beach in Caloundra in a 3-bedroom penthouse for $500 a week, because you can have that right now. You know, the option is invest first. So this to me looks pretty simple. Simon, you know, there's really two options here. You can go the safe way, which is to invest in an area where you can guarantee and legally rent out a granny flat. That's a good option. There you'd be looking at literally $300,000, $350K to build the home or buy the home. That would rent for $350 a week. We then build a granny flat for $140,000 that rents for another $300 a week, giving you, what are we at, $490,000 of total spend for $650 a week in rent. Then you use that surplus $200 a week that you're making, and you get your rent $200 a week subsidised. So you can live in that nicer place where you want to live and continue to like feel like you're moving forward.
I mean, as the years go by, this property increases, the land increases in value, the property increases in value, the rent will probably go up each 6 months, a year, whatever you would want to do, depending on the market,
Yeah.
depending on the supply and how many people are building. And
20 years from now, you'll get $1,000 a week from that. And I'll show you how to pay it off outright in the next 12 to 15 using the property and a bit of your own money. And that will enable you to have $1,000 a week for life with the property that's worth $1 million at that time, without having to think about it at all.
This here is definitely the fastest way to financial freedom.
Yeah, this is the two properties of financial. This is strategy,
and it's a delayed gratification strategy as well.
Yeah.
This is the veggies right now.
Yeah,
but this is what gives you meat for the rest of your life.
Which is what you want, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
If I was starting again now, I would be investing that way personally.
Yeah.
Like I'd be renting and investing, but the weird thing is because interest rates are so low, it is actually cheaper for most people to buy right now, and so that sort of throws your headspace off. It's like I'm paying more and I'm not making anything. So if you're going to go the invest and then rent way, you've got to make sure your investment is amazing and smashing every criteria, because you're sacrificing your income for rent, which I understand.
This is a question of, we'll go for this one first and I'll go to the question after.
Yeah, so I might finish up by saying there's another option, which is beachside Brisbane. I believe the most undervalued market in Australia right now, certain pockets. We buy something like for 450k. We then, in this area we can't do the granny flat, or maybe we can.
Yeah,
we
don't
sure.
plan towards the granny flat, we just know that's going to increase in a lot of value, don't we?
Yeah, we just aim to buy close to the city here, and this is just the hold, renovate, sell for a profit at the top of the market, or hold forever. So again, that may or may not be a dual income option in the future, we're not sure. But what we know is coming there is capital growth, which is powerful.
Brisbane City's becoming unrealistic for people to pay rent and buy, and they have to move out eventually.
Exactly. So
it's the same as what they did in all the Sydney, what you just did 10, 15 years ago. So you know the market because of that.
Exactly, man. Like you're looking at the same distance from the CBD of Sydney or Melbourne for something like this. Absolutely $1 million, if not $2 million.
Yeah.
So walk us all through, like me and Simon, through your logic and thoughts around each of these without going into too much detail. But what stands out, what do you like and dislike about each strategy?
So if I had to choose one that I would be the most stoked about doing straight away, including a little bit of my emotional choice, and realistically it's a big part of my partner Alicia, because doing the investment side of things, she doesn't get to choose her salon and have like a long-term salon home.
Sure.
That's a big part of my decision, and I have to kind of lower my ego and sometimes have a part of that as my decision. The number one would be the beachside Sunshine Coast, because I love surfing, I love it, and I know for sure that it's going to increase in value because people are just more and more people are moving to the coast every day. I meet people every day in the gym. Like 3 of my new clients are from Melbourne, Sydney, and this is before the COVID thing as well. It's an awesome thing. It's also, I love to get my hands dirty on the project side of things, and I'd love to work with our friends, with the building, and with you guys. I also feel that we could pull the price down for someone who's like just put it up for sale because they've had no offense, someone had passed away, or like they just need to sell, they're in a bit of debt. We could kind of get a good deal on this. That's number one for me. And then obviously for me, this would be to save money, pay the minimum on this kind of thing, and then do the investment like a few years later, depending when Alicia wants to get the first home buyers or whatnot. That would be number one for me, just because I love the beach. I think
that's 100% the way. If I was buying my own home first, that I would be going right now, without a doubt.
And then realistically, as Simon and me have been looking at, and we've been chatting about it, we've been kind of having a look at what's been sold the last few months and over the last year, and especially the last few weeks, things are really inflating really quickly. This is becoming a little bit unrealistic for my budget right now. So number one option, obviously, with the beach side, as I said, just because I love the beach, I surf, I want to have a kid in a few years. It just seems like, I can make money on the land and the property, and I can chunk into the loan and then do the investment after. Number two right now would actually be the building, if I can get the grants or if I can get a good deal, if we can speak to the right people. Just because, not that it's guaranteed, but it's just like a super safe choice for if I'm going to live in something.
Yeah.
It's just safe, and I know that it's going to add an extra 5 years to my financial freedom, but it will be also a place where I make my own YouTube videos and Instagram, and I can film and I can bring those profits back up. I can motivate myself to be like, I know that I've not made I haven't made the decision that's going to give me the financial freedom the fastest, but what I have done is create a home and a lifestyle that I can build my online social media. That's why I think I'm a little bit different to the most people who just work for someone normally, just because I can create a lot of profit quickly if I'm in an environment that's stimulating for me.
Can I ask you, man, like, if you didn't know us and like we took everything away, what would you really choose to do right now? Like, because between 1 and 2, like, this is the thing, man, like, I talk to thousands of people a year and no one ever tells me what they really want. And I have to ask this question constantly, like, there's nothing wrong with just going for what you want now, because I did. You've seen it. Or maybe you didn't. I did Bluff Street, then I did Reflection Drive. Like, I've done exactly this, and I loved it. Like, I was so happy to be there. It was perfect for that stage of life, and I did make money on it, and it set me up for the next thing. It's okay to go, fuck the rules, I just want this, let's get that, and then let's invest outside of that and make sure that the properties outperform, because you know, if you're missing 2% per year on this one, but you're getting an extra 2% a year on this one, it all balances out. And this is the thing, man, like, I don't want anyone to like eat the veggies first and delay their life for 15 years. If we want to take advantage of the grants, if you want to keep the 50 grand savings you have in your pocket, if you want the brand new place that you can set up a studio room, a massage room, and have it sick, and just do that, like, it's okay to go for that too, man. Like, you say to me, you need to train 3 days a week minimum to get this result. I'm like, dude, I want to do 1, maybe 2. I'm happy to know that, like, I'm not going
to take you longer, but
at least same results.
It might be taking you longer, but at least you're in the car trip to the destination you want to go to, instead of just being like,
I should have done all week. Like, I can surf, I can play with my kids and not feel like the way that I used to when I isolated training 5 days a week. And it's like, it's okay, and I really want people to get this, it's okay to go for what you want now. Everything else will come, man. You're 28. You're gonna be financially free next year with the app anyway, and your PT business, and we'll have another property by the end of next year, guaranteed.
So for the question you asked, and I was awesome to hear that, because I was kind of like
saying what we want to hear, like
not stressing. I never say what you want to hear, but I'm like, you know, when I mentioned to Simon that I was looking at properties in Harmony, he's like, no, mate, that's not the right thing to do, because he's looking out for me.
Trying to protect you,
like, this is the way that a good friend who understands education. It's like if you said, oh, I'm going to go sign up at like F45 or whatever, instead of, if it was the same price as doing PT, I'd be like, no, do the PT, you'll learn better, you're not going to get injured, blah, blah, blah. So I understand, and I listened, and I'm still, even if I didn't know you guys and we weren't having this conversation, I think I would still be looking for this.
For sure, that's what you're looking for.
I like that idea. Yeah, and I've seen my mum like start small with a bit of something in a good area and knowing where the highways are going to go, and she was smart about it. So I've always had that. But this is just like, I understand why these things sell like hotcakes and they move. It's because you go over to the block of land and they're like, here it is, it's a set price. They tell you you can't really negotiate. And the builders are doing these really cheap builds for these houses that look really nice. And then over time you put furniture in and you do all the things you need to do. So, you know, that's kind of like, if we can't find this option in the next 2 months, I will be openly talking to people about this straight away. Like next week, tomorrow, like, I want to be jumping on any good land blocks that are coming up in a corner that's not backed onto like four the properties, and be trying to hold them, because I spoke to them, they were saying that, I spoke to another guy about it as well. They're like, when you put a deposit down like $1,000 or whatever for these unregistered blocks, you don't lose that if you can pull out whenever you want. There's no cost involved in it at all. Obviously, just getting you a bit more interested in it. So like, I'd be still willingly to be holding that and trying to get approved for that building grant, but at the same time knowing that I can pull out at any time with this. I haven't signed any building fees and big deposits for building, but still actively looking for this. That's what I want to do.
Let's say that I was in the gym with you right now and I was saying, hey mate, I want to look like this, but I'm going to eat Macca's 5 days a week.
Yeah.
What would you say to me?
How about you just do it 1 day a week, so you're still getting the Maccas?
So that's exactly the thing. I can interrupt there. One thing, and that's the thing that people make the mistake on in property too. Like, you've straight up told me that when I used to come in every third week and I'd drunk. Remember when I used to first work out with you and you're like, man, you've just wasted a week. Like, you said it with your eyes, and only once with your mouth, but I knew it.
Yeah.
And now I don't do that. The gains are just, I can train half the amount and get the same result from just taking that one thing away.
Yeah.
So it's like, we as investors need to do the same thing. You can't hold that and put all of your energy in there. We can fully do that in the next 2 months, and I can guarantee, man, we'll find it. Like, we'll find it without a doubt, or we can go all in on that. But like, for you, just with the mental energy of considering both, it's just a waste of your headspace for 2 months, when it could be so simple. Hey, Ben and Tom, we want to do this. Cool. We want to do this. Cool. And we'll just make both options easy to the point where you've got 15 minutes a week of involvement. But like,
I see, that's a hard decision.
This is the thing, man. Like, everyone gets to this point where they've got to decide, but 99.9% of people
sit on the fence.
I'm a sense fitter. I'm a
phone
though. Like, I'm also like the same as everyone else, but I've just got really good at making a decision and then holding it until it's not working, and then not being afraid to jump. If in 2 months' time we can't find it and that's gone up 30k, hell yeah. Don't let these guys fool you. They've got thousands of blocks coming up. You know what I mean? Exactly. So like, where do we focus our attention on between now and the end of the year? And if it doesn't work out, then reassess January 1.
The hard thing is the building grant ends at the end of the year.
Exactly.
So I'm in
are we going strategically, because this isn't a property combo, this is a strategy one. Yeah. Strategically, do you go for the renovator on the beach side with the bigger land that you know is going to make you the shorter term money? Or strategically, do you go for the home, take advantage of the grants and get the place that you actually want to live in now? Because this isn't a property combo at all. It's what do you want for the next 3 years thing. Because if it was a property combo, you'd be going for the money. Yeah,
it's so hard though, because like, we don't even know if this is actually realistic without having a proper look. Like, maybe you would have a look over the next maybe 2 days, just have a quick glance.
It's realistic, man. Like, if your budget can stretch to 500, like, I know it's there. It's just waiting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, it'll come up.
It'll come up. You just got to be patient with it. But I know they're still around because I've seen people still buying them.
Yeah. And does this place, like, how, we don't really obviously know these details, but like, how renovated is it?
Completely unrenovated. Like,
what I mean is, like, how crap is it?
It'll be brick and tile on a big block.
It'll be 30 years old.
But it'll be it's going to look to the point where, like, you're going to want to pretty much do floorings, do painting, do lights, do fans, do blinds, like, almost immediately. And then you're going to, over time, want to get Brad to like render or clad the outside of the house. We're going to all want to get there for 2 days and do the gardens and make it look smick. So it's not going to be what you want to live in.
Yeah, so possibly I'm having to fork out already a fair bit of my savings to get to this price bracket, and I only have like around 15 left for the rental and have nothing left after that.
Yeah, and you're going to use that full 15, you're still going to have a 30-year-old kitchen and bathroom.
I realistically think that my partner Alicia and I will probably be more pushed towards this, just because
this will also probably likely allow you to invest faster.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Without a doubt.
If I keep my 50k and only put the minimum deposit in, as you've given me recommendations for.
This is option 2, by the way, the brand new piece of land.
And keep my chunk of cash and wait a year or two, and Alicia saves and I save, and we really dedicate the time to saving and not spend $1 on that other than just like a bit of gym equipment and posters and whatnot. Like, obviously I'm going to spend over $5,000 on like furniture and stuff. We've got most of our stuff, but
seeing you with the brand new place, with everything that you enjoy, knowing that she can run a home-based business out of it, you're going to reduce your weekly cost by $150 by owning it and having a debt below 400k with 50 grand worth of grants. Makes a lot of sense to me, because within honestly 6 months we'll be talking about the investment. And we'll be just.
Is that realistic? Well, I'm probably more leaning towards like a year.
like it's realistic. It's whether like that
How
feels
much?
super uncomfortable or not is a different thing. It's kind of like the hey, if you train 3 days a week, you'll get the McConnell body, and I'm like, well, man, maybe I'll just be the skinny version because I don't compare to the It's like you
That's
can
exactly
financially afford to do it. It's whether like that feels like shit. That's
what I mean by that is I'd feel comfortable, I'm ready for whatever, but will the banks allow me, if there's only like 20 grand in equity or 30 grand in equity in 6 months?
You won't use the equity because you're saving, because you'll only have
There's
to put
options
down 20
there.
grand.
That's a very deep
That's a deep
conversation,
question,
but
yeah,
there's definitely options there.
If it's possible, you know.
So what I'm thinking is like 360. I know what you can save in a year.
Yeah.
Even if you used 100% of your money now, in a year you'd have another deposit.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of things that the audience isn't listening to right now.
Yeah, but I understand now. Yeah, I thought you meant using relying on the banks because I've not really been able to rely on them years because I haven't been putting everything in my tax and everything like that. But if we can do it without having to rely on the banks and just actually get into a financial situation where I can go ahead, then I think in a year I'd rather push towards like 1 year of the investment property a year later.
So the question now is, do you go Harmony or do you go Aura?
Definitely Harmony.
Cool. So if it's Harmony, like the next step, just so that you've got a clear thing, is to get the price list and the site list to Simon and I. We'll do a full review.
Yeah.
Then we'll introduce you to a builder that will do it for you at such a better price than anyone else, and it'll basically cost price plus 20k for you as like family and friend.
Perfect.
Simon will help you with the design to make it perfect.
We'll help you with the negotiations as well to see if we can try and get them to do something.
And that's it, man. Like,
and then it's as simple as that. Like it's nice to just walk out of here now and know, okay, I know exactly what I need to do.
Don't waste any more energy on anything that's not that.
I felt like I was cheating when I was talking to a lady at Harmony yesterday on the phone, and I hadn't spoke to you guys yet. She was like saying to me, but she wasn't pushy at all. She was actually really nice, but she goes, these people are calling up every day for these blocks. Obviously, just release it, making it like.
It's urgency now.
She just read off a script. She didn't.
But she was generally just doing her job. I've done sales before, we all know. But she was like saying, I would be pushing towards, if you have to get a contract up if you want the builder's grant. The contract's got to be done by December or whatever.
Yeah.
So she was saying, you've only got a few weeks, just being realistic. And I was like, no, I'm not signing anything until I talk to the boys at Pumped. I wanted you guys to be on my side with this, so it's cool.
It's a good decision as well.
I'm super excited for you, bro, because you get a combination of the things that you really want. And I think sometimes choosing what you want is 90% of it. Like, exactly, bro. So I'm stoked for you. Like, get the price list, get the land list. The building side of things will be super simple. It'll take us a week to get a HA in place after we get the design together. Don't rush into it. Don't shop 1,000 builders. We've already shopped 11 builders in the market. There's really only 2 in Queensland that I'd ever introduce someone to that will give you wholesale pricing, and they'll build it in that period of time. Like, I honestly reckon by as long as the land's ready. Is it ready to build on now? Or is it coming up?
I'm not super educated on that, but
we'll have a look at that.
The deal that just fell through that she sent me, that one's probably like something I could jump onto early. But I think it's across the road from a school. It's going to get built in 3 years, and I want to be across the road from a school.
No, we need to make sure it's the right one rather than just the one that's available.
Yeah, they're saying that a lot of these lots aren't going to be available till March.
Cool, that's good, man. It allows you to save money.
Yeah.
As long as you can pre-qualify for the grants now, the longer it takes for them to bring it, the better.
Yeah, she was actually saying that. Like, a lot of people who put their deposit down held the exact price, and the land's all gone up by 20 grand since like 6 months ago.
They'll push the price up by 20 grand in the next 6 months again.
So you're already making a bit of money before you're even paying for the full loan for the build and everything, which is pretty cool.
You've got it locked and loaded.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you wanted to talk through today, man, or is that like enough of a starting point across through? Like, we'll continue to record this whole process if that's okay.
Yeah, I'd love that.
To show people like all the moving parts. So we'll review the land, we'll review the building.
This process right here is like, everybody needs this process. Like, even if someone's not ready to build or buy straight away, I think you need to go through this process to actually start saving and not spending money on crap. Like, it gives you like a bit of a goal, and it's more than what I would even thought that we were going to go over, and it made me, I love that you just pushed and said make a decision, because otherwise I'm on Domain every day trying to look at what's being sold and what's available. And then I'm also going into Harmony and looking at display homes and talking to builders, and you're like, don't separate your time and effort. I should just be concentrating on my work and let you guys do the.
I was reading this book on the plane on the way up to Darwin over the weekend, right? And they talked about Winston Churchill, and he had this quote in the book which is all about conservation of energy. Now, high performers' natural instinct is because you run either on more adrenaline or you run on higher output. Like we can all work 16 hours a day if we have to, but it's not a priority or a preference or a value for any of us anymore. It's like, okay, I'll just do more. And it's like he said, like if you're standing and you can sit. If you're like sitting and you can lie down. He's like, conserve the energy for the moment you need it. And it wasn't talking about standing or sitting. Like I hate sitting down.
It's a choice.
It's the choice to conserve energy now, so that when the time comes and we have to sit face to face with this land person and go, you know what I mean, like look her dead in the eye and see what she'll really do, and same with the builder. That's the energy point that you want to conserve for. Like, I don't want to see anyone jumping on realestate.com before they've got a plan, because it's just a waste of energy. It's like
I have wasted a bit of energy.
I wasted 10 years doing that.
Yeah. There's so many options. There's infinite options in the Australian property world, and that makes it really difficult. So having a plan is 1000%.
Now it's just super exciting. Like, let's make this place look sick.
I'm actually super excited.
Yeah, bro. Thank you so much.